everyone and welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video where I am going to make the decision, well, I'm going to talk to you about books that I have put on pause and I'm going to talk about the ones that I'm DNFing. But what I'm also doing is delving into the books that have been on like my Goodreads, like currently reading for years, and I'm going to make the decision on DNFing them or whether or not I will be continuing them. So I'll be doing a bit of like screen recording and screen sharing as well. But I thought we could just start, actually no, we'll just start very randomly. So let's start with the source. This book is a non-fiction book and it is by Tara Swart and it is about neuroscience and how you can like retrain your brain, neuroplasticity. I listened to the Expanded podcast and for a while Tara was a guest on there. She had like a routine guest slot and she would come in and talk. And she is a world-renowned neuroscientist and I just really loved the things she was saying. So once I found out she had a book, I was like, I'm definitely going to buy that and read it. And I bought it and I started reading it and then I was like, this is a bit much for me. Now, the thing is with this is I started reading this in 2021, September 2021. So a whole year and like nearly 6 months has passed since I have picked this book up again. And it's just wild to me that that much time has passed and I still have this book up. I mean, it's not the worst one on the list, but it's just really wild to me because I have been planning to pick it up for a while. Now, I was going to pick this book up at like 2 days ago, but then another book took over. But after I finished reading that book, which is The How by Yes the Daily Ward, this is going back on the list. This is the next non-fiction book that I'm going to pick up. If you don't know, and I do this very loosely, I tend to read a non-fiction book, a fiction book, and then a poetry collection, and then listen to an audiobook. Usually that's what I have on the go, so I usually have about 4 books on the go, which suits me fine, because that's just kind of like the way I like to read. So once I finish The How, which is a non-fiction book, I would definitely be picking this up. So I think this is going to be the easiest one out of all the books in here to decide like what I'm going to do with it. So I'm going to do a bit of screen sharing here, so you'll be seeing my screen now. And so on Goodreads you have your currently reading, and you can see like, you know, these are my most recent titles. If we go here to see more, oh the shame. Actually, well, this is not the best bit to do it, but you can see all of these books here. So let's go to, is it Mad Books? Yes, so then let's go to currently reading, and there are 13 books I am apparently currently reading. So The Power of Now, decided to pick that up a couple of days ago. That's fine. Guys, let's talk about this book. Because look at this date. 2013. August. So we're not nearly at the 10-year mark, but how has this book been on my currently reading for 9 years? So in my vague memory, I know I have this book in the house in London, right? I know it's at my mum's house in London. I kind of think I know where it is. I don't know why I think I was reading this book because I was like, oh, people talk about all these people that are like classics, these American men that are like classics. Let me read some of their work so I can sort of get a feel for it. And I think I might have gotten this at a charity shop. Could be wrong, I could have also ordered it off Amazon. Guys, I clearly, let's look at where I got to in terms of reading it. Okay, it's quite highly rated, but that's, you know, there's 17 people, so take that with a pinch of salt. Let's see the reading activity. Oh, so I didn't even know how far I got into this. I thought I would have added a bit more information. I didn't. So, started this on the 14th of August. There have been no further updates. I don't even know what this is about. This page doesn't have a blurb, but I essentially think it is his letters that he's written. I feel like it's who he's written to like editors and like other people and whatnot. So I've just looked it up on Amazon and this is bringing me up the first letters of it because this is volume 2 that I'm on. And yeah, it is just really letters that span his life. So it's letters to, I guess, all sorts of people. The thing I like for the blurb of this one is, throughout this period, writing letters was one of the only 2 constant habits in Burroughs' life. The other was heroin. So I'm like, okay, cool. So, you know, for me, I feel like this is a very easy decision to make on this one. I'm calling it. I'm going to cut this off my currently reading list because I do not want to pick that book up again. I have moved on from trying to, you know, feel like I need to know about like these men that have made up a huge period of writing. I don't really care. So I'm not that girl anymore, so I'm calling it. I'm just going to remove this as something that I have never finished and will never finish, and it can finally come off the list. So let's go to another book. We'll go with this ebook. And this is The Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Now, I feel terrible about this because I already know I'm going to DNF this. I actually started reading this as part of a buddy read, and honestly, reading the book, I was just like, I don't understand what is going on. The dialect was blowing me mind, so I was just like, let me actually listen to this as an audiobook. So I was listening to the audiobook alongside reading this, and I just wasn't that interested in the book, and then the buddy read sort of died down. And on its own, like, would I have chosen this on my own? No. So I just kind of feel like I don't really want to read this. I know it's a classic. I know so many people like it, and I can really see the beginnings of what like is going to happen and the beginnings of why so many people love it. But for me, it's just not enough to continue. I think part of me continuing to read it is because I know it's really well respected and well loved by people. But me as a reader, am I enjoying it? Am I loving it? Is it like, do I want to carry on with it? No. I started reading this, as you can see, May 2021. So again, actually that might not be the correct date because sometimes it is about when you shelve it. So let me just double check that. No, that is accurate, yeah. So May 10th, and then read another section like May 29th. So I'm calling it on that. I'm not going to be continuing on with that book. I really, nothing about it when I look back to it or when I just see the page now thinks, yeah, you should really go back to that book. I just think I don't want to read that. I think about how I was just wading through dialects that was just really hard for me to understand, and I'm happy she wrote in that dialect because that's how the people speak. And the audiobook is really good because she has the accent and everything, but for me it's just not enough for me to continue. I'm not that interested. How do you mark these as just like DNF? You just go... I don't really DNF books, so sometimes I'm like, okay, I think it's this, no, currently reading, and then never finished. There we go. So let's do the same for this one. Currently reading, never finished. Done. So the next book I'm going to focus on is this book, which is Breaking the Habits of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. So I started listening to this as an audiobook, which on reflection is a mistake. I actually have gotten very far into this, which is why I'm a bit like, shouldn't you just like finish it off? I am 91% of the way through this book. But I really felt like most of it, I was like, I don't know, living in the Matrix. It felt like so much of what he was talking about, I was like, and it is one of those books, Joe Dispenza is one of those authors that people really love or they really hate. And I don't know, I think I fall somewhere in the middle. I don't know that this book was the best example, like the best book to come to him, to be introduced to him with, but that's what I've done. I also think it's just one of those books because it has like worksheets and perhaps like bits that you refer to and like meditation points. I think it's just one of those that's just better if you are physically reading the book rather than listening to it. I just found at times I was like completely zoning out, and I know people have this complaint a lot with audiobooks and that's why they don't listen to audiobooks. For me, I don't really have that with audiobooks. When I'm listening to it, I can like, I'm usually doing something that doesn't require a lot of my attention, so I can listen to the audiobook. Whereas with this, like, even if I was doing something that didn't require a lot of attention, I'd rather focus on that because what he was talking about was going way over my head. Going over my head, and also I didn't really find it that interesting, or I just felt like I didn't really believe it. So I think a little bit of like why I put off reading this book as well is a bit of skepticism. So this book says that you are not doomed by your genes and hardwired to be a certain way for the rest of your life. A new science is emerging that empowers all humans to be human beings who create the reality they choose. Essentially he's talking about neuroplasticity, but I think he adds like his own little bits of twist on it. Some things he was saying in the book I was just like, this is just like, oh, like stop it. So he says here, he combines the fields of quantum physics, neuroscience, brain chemistry, biology and genetics to show you what is truly possible. And it really, what a lot of this is to me is like what we call like spiritual bypass, where a lot of it is really that stupid essence of like, if you just think that you can do this, then you can do it. And it's just like, that's obviously just not the case. There are so many other factors involved, like stop pushing that narrative. But anyway, it says here, not only will you be given the necessary knowledge to change any aspect of yourself, you will be taught the step-by-step tools to apply what you need to learn in order to make measurable changes in any area of your life. So yeah, that's what this is supposed to do. Honestly, I didn't really enjoy the book. I'll be honest with you. And so that's why it's taken me so long to read it. You can see I started in May 13th, 2022. It's gone on to June, gone to August, gone into October, where I picked it up at different points. And at this point, I just feel like I want to finish it. The problem is, I will pick it up, and I mean, October, it hasn't been too far away. I will pick it up and I just feel like I won't really know what's going on. So then I'm like, what's the point in finishing that rest of that 9%? So I'm really debating this one and whether I should just like listen to it and then call it. Because regardless, this book isn't going to get more than like 1 to 2 stars. I don't like books like this. I think it very much frames the problems, or like just, yeah, it frames the problems that you have with your life are basically a result of your like negative thinking, and that's just like not true. So yes, there are ways to be positive about situations, but that's not why certain things happen. So I don't like that narrative, so it's never going to get more than like 2 stars from me. So I just feel like, well, if you're not enjoying it, why don't you just DNF it? But I just feel like I'm at 91%, so I don't know. So let's talk about this book, which is Kojo Lang's Search Sweet Country. I started reading this in, 2002, May 2002, I would say. I can double check that later, but I remember I bought it so I could take it to Ghana, so I could read it whilst I was in Ghana, because this book is set in Accra and I was going to Accra as well, and Kumasi. So, yeah. But I started reading this. In fairness to this book, and the issue I have with this isn't really the contents of the book. It's more to do with, I guess, like where I was at that time in terms of headspace, and then just like and how then that transforms into how I feel about the book. This book is about like the lives of different characters in Ghana. So it really is. It says an unforgettable cast of character lives love and try to get by. An idealistic professor, a beautiful young witch, a wide-eyed student, a corrupt politician, a healer, and a man intent on founding his own village. And the story opens up with a man that is intent on founding his own village. And I don't know, I just started reading it, and I only got a couple of pages in, honestly, and I just felt really confused, and I was like, I don't want to read this. And I think that is what has just put me off picking this up again. I don't know if it's because like at the time I was travelling, so obviously when you travel, like it's just like, ooh. And then like I was feeling unwell whilst I was in Ghana. I actually started this on my birthday whilst I was in Ghana, and like it'd been so sunny the whole time we were there, and then on the 6th, on my birthday, it pissed down with rain all day. I had a really nice evening. Like the weather didn't dampen my spirits, but it was a bit like I just wanted to sit by the pool that day. So yeah, and yeah, there was just so much going on in general that I feel like the feelings of whatever was going on, and then having to read this book and finding those like first like 10 pages really like, what the hell is going on? It's just dampened how I feel about this book, and I just don't know what to do. I don't want to be like, I don't ever want to read this because it's a classic that I really want to read. Like there are so many classics that are obviously from Penguin that focus on authors from America and the UK, and I really want to read this Ghanaian classic. I just, every time I think about it, I'm just like, I'm just going to be confused again and I won't like it. So I don't really know what to do. So if anyone has any tips, I don't really know like what tips they can give. How can I just give this book the fresh start that it deserves? So let's go back to some of the books on here. So a book on here is called E Squared, 9 Do-It-Yourselves Energy Experiments That Prove Your Thoughts Create Reality. I was clearly going just through books like this during that time, because now I'm just like, why would you read this book? I believe this is actually an ebook, so I could pick it up again if I wanted to. And this was about like doing like simple experiments, and they really were just like, you know, simple tasks that you could do. In a way, now I think about it, it reminds me of like CBT therapy, or rather just CBT, because the therapy is already covered in the T. But it says here, you were invited to conduct 9 48-hour experiments to prove that there really is a positive, loving, total hip force in the universe. And yeah, clearly I was just on some hype of reading like books like this at the time, because the next one kind of follows that same vein. But it does list out the 9 experiments here, and it says here, now you know E Squared proves the following. There is an invisible energy force or field of infinite possibilities. You impact the field and draw the field. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing, because now as I'm also reading, I'm like, this sounds wacky as fuck. Like, I completely get positive thinking and same vibrational energy and stuff like that. Again, I just think a lot of that stuff is spiritual bypass and not actually working on sort of the core issues that might be affecting like how you receive things or how your life goes. So I don't know about this, to be honest. I'm going to see if I can find it on my Kindle, because if it is an ebook that I have, then I'm just going to flick through it and see what I think of it, and then I can make the decision about whether or not I DNF it. But again, this is a book that's been on my list for a really long time. So 2013, like August. What happened in August 2013 that I was just like, alright, I'm picking up these books and I don't want to read them. So I picked it up in August 2013, and then, you know, read it for a little bit, and then got to September 18th and got to like nearly halfway through and then didn't pick it up. Maybe I was doing the experiments, I don't really know. But I think I just stopped reading the book because I wasn't that interested in it, or because I was doing the experiments. I really can't remember. Like, this was like 9 years ago, so in all honesty, I don't remember. But yeah, this is a book that I need to go and revisit very briefly to see what I think of it, and then make the final decision about whether or not I'm going to remove it from my list. So next up we have A Whole New You, 6 Best Steps to Ignite Change for Your Best Life. This was in 2014, apparently I picked this up. Like I said, 2014, but more specifically January. Read it into February, so it clearly took me a while, from like January 30th to February 2nd, and then February 8th on 25%. I cannot recall this book or why I stopped. It seems like a very normal run-of-the-mill self-help book, so I can't really think why I stopped reading it. I probably, in all honesty, knowing me, stopped reading it because I thought it was bullshit. Like, I think a lot of these books are bullshit, and the ones that I read and really enjoy now and lately is because I think they talk to people like real people. They talk to people and acknowledge the deep pains that life can hold and the blocks that people have, rather than just being like, if you get up and drink water and go for a run every morning, then you'll be fine. And it's like, people know this. It's about doing it. You know, if you just think positive, everything will be fine. Then you'll find that 1,000 pounds on the floor. Like, stuff like that just, for me, just ignores the real issues that people face, and just makes life seem like it's your fault. Like, it's because you don't think positive, or like because you don't get up at 5 AM and run. I hate shit like that. So I don't know if this book is like that, and I don't want to go back and like read this because I feel like it probably is that. But that is what I'm going to do. Along with that E-squared book, I'm going to go back, because again, I believe that I have an e-book of this. I could be wrong, actually. I think this might be a physical. Do you know what? This might have been given to me by someone, now I think about it. So it might be a physical copy that's back in London. But I'll try and find it and then make the decision about whether or not I am going to finish it or DNF it and just remove it completely from my list, because I really do want that list to go down. So then I think the final book to talk about that has been on my list, and like book that I have paused and like why, is this book, New Daughters of Africa. Guys, I want to read this. It's just, this tomb, right, it's just like on the floor next to the bedside table. And because you don't read it from like front to back, obviously it's like not a novel, it contains poems, it contains letters, it contains short stories. Lord, it's just very hard to remember to pick this up. That's simply the reason why I haven't read this. I just forget it exists. I actually have it there on the side, and usually things fall on top of it, and then I forget it exists, and I'm never really like, oh wow, do you know what I'm going to do? Pick up this huge book and start reading. So that is simply the reason why I haven't done this, but I really want to, because it just contains so many fabulous writers in here. Just so many writers that I know, that I haven't experienced. It's just a wonderful anthology of writers from Africa, the diaspora, and I want to read it and I want to finish it. I got this at Christmas 2020 and started reading it in January. And here we are. Nearly 2 years, well, 2 years later, and I still haven't finished this. So this whole video is just a testament to the embarrassingness of my inability to finish books. I just picked them up and then just like, I mean, it's not really, considering how many other books I have finished that are on my list, like it's not, but you know. So this one, I think what I'm going to trial is, I don't have it on my immediate book stack of books that I'm going to read next. I think I just need to put it on there, and then I can like definitely pick it up. I need to put it on there, not on the bottom, but like somewhere in the middle, and then I can be like, oh yeah, you need to read that. So that concludes this video. I hope that gave you an insight into sort of why some of these books have lingered on my sort of currently reading for so long. I'm really glad that I got rid of 2 of them. That like feels really good. And I can see a theme for me, at least anyway, at least for some of those like self-helpy books, that I clearly just stopped listening to them or stopped reading them because I was like, I don't believe in any of this, and like this is actually frustrating me and I don't want to continue listening to this nonsense or reading it. So I need to decide what I'm going to do about those, but if you have any thoughts, please let me know, and please let me know what book has been on your sort of currently reading for the longest time, because yeah, coming up to 10 years, that's wow. But it is what it is. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in another one. Bye!